Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's episode is an updates episode of course, and our first story comes from Party Costume Throwaway. This is a story that we've covered in the past, but now it has a new update to it as well, so if you do want to skip initial parts of the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. From the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and says, am I the arsehole here for uninviting my dad's wife from my daughter's birthday party over something she did last year? I don't usually turn to the internet for advice, but I feel like my situation is specific enough that my friends can't help me much. For context, my dad has been with Kathy for a little under 15 years. She's technically his third wife, so she's always been very insecure about her place in his family, which has unfortunately led to her to become very needy and histrionic. My daughter is turning 6 in February, and we're planning a birthday party. Last year, my husband and I threw a Cinderella-themed party at our place. My dad showed up without Kathy, who had claimed to be sick. It didn't bother me, but I remember feeling something was off. Near the end of the party, Kathy showed up in a Cinderella costume. She was acting in character and trying to interact with the kids. Neither me nor my husband had been informed she'd be doing that. At most, she'd asked me whether we were hiring any party performers a few weeks prior. I later found out she'd been planning to surprise my daughter and bought the costume the day she found out what the theme would be. My husband and I are still positive Kathy did this for attention. It didn't really work. My daughter recognized her immediately, but it did disrupt things a little because she did this around the time the kids were eating cake and some of the parents were getting ready to leave. We managed to sort things out, but it took some time and we still had to deal with a dozen confused preschoolers. It was a great party besides that, and our daughter enjoyed herself, which is what matters most. But my husband and I asked Kathy not to do this again. She agreed and apologized. I'm pretty sure she's planning on doing it again. We spend a lot of time with my paternal family during the holidays, and I noticed Kathy was bringing up Cinderella's appearance at the party very frequently. She was reminiscing, showing pictures, and talking about what she'd do differently. She didn't talk to my kids about it much, but she did ask my daughter what theme she wanted for a party this year and how she'd feel if one of the characters showed up. I really don't want to have to deal with this surprise again, especially if it comes with no warning like last time. We're also throwing this year's party at a venue, not at home, meaning we have a time slot to abide by. My husband and I spoke to Kathy about our concerns. She didn't say she was planning on showing up in costume, but she kept insisting that if she did, the kids would love it and it could be fun. We tried to make her promise she wouldn't do it, but she kept dodging it and claiming she didn't see the problem. Finally, we told her it would be best if she didn't come at all. She can join us for dinner we're having afterwards, but not the actual party. Now she's upset and my dad is angry at us. He firmly believes we're being paranoid and dramatic. I'm worried we're going too far, but I'm almost certain she is indeed planning on doing it again, and I don't want to risk having problems at the party. Am I the arsehole? A commenter says, this is one of those questions that could go either way. On the one hand, you're totally right to have your boundaries, and it's weird that she's trying to not only surprise your daughter but also to surprise you. Why is she so obsessed with being a Disney princess? On the other hand, everything from you feels like a bit of an overreaction because it's just a princess costume, unless you're getting creepy child predator vibes from her. She seems like she's just trying to do something fun for the kids. Maybe it was awkward because you made it awkward, but is it generally harmless? I don't know this lady, and I guess my judgment of the situation would depend on her actions outside of this. Does she frequently cross boundaries? Is she generally liked by your kids? Does she treat them well? Those kind of things. Opie says, I think that's a fair assessment. I don't really care about the awkwardness potential. I care about it being done with no prior warning. There was a little girl at the party last year who started crying because she and her parents had to leave, but Cinderella had just arrived. I'm having this event thrown, so I want to know what will happen, especially this year. She's not very respectful of boundaries, but not the worst case in my family. She's the kind of person who does what she thinks other people should like instead of what they actually want. The kids like her, but don't love her. Someone says, can OP give her the wrong theme/address? And OP says she already knows the theme, and I'm pretty sure she knows the venue. It's a kid's party place, so it's easy to find the address online. I can try to tell the venue not to let her in. Someone asks how OP has been enforcing this, and OP says, I feel like it's hard to be as blunt as we're being now. We've told her multiple times in several different ways not to show up in a costume. She's not outright admitting she's planning on trying again, but she keeps dodging it and saying she's sure the kids will love it. And for the record, my kids didn't really like it last year. Again, my daughter recognized her right away. Old Man Kibitza says not the arsehole. It sounds like she was absolutely planning to do it again. While I personally don't know what the problem is, being that you have a problem with it, then you needed to address it. Also, if she's insecure about being the third wife, she shouldn't be doing things that upset the family. Opie says the problem is more of a time and child managing than anything else. If me, my husband, and the venue aren't aware, we can't control it, and it's difficult to manage these things with so many young kids around. We can't stay there after our time slot, so I don't want to risk anything being delayed. It's also very annoying in general. If I wanted a performer, I'd hire one, but I'm more worried about the lack of warning. And more information on Kathy, Opie says, I genuinely think this is because of her insecurities. She's the younger third wife who showed up when her husband's children were grown, and his family was sick of caring about his relationship history. So she tries to take whatever chance she gets to assert herself as part of the family. As my husband puts it, Kathy acts like she's allergic to not having eyes and ears on her. She's been like this for as long as she's been around, but it gets worse and more ridiculous as time goes by. It's been especially bad since I had kids. Lucky Effective says not the arsehole, but you could tell her you're having a Chewbacca party and see what happens. Opie says lol, I might just do that on my own birthday. So it was 5 days after that post that Opie comes in with their first update and says, so I have a love-hate relationship with being right. My dad called me 2 days after I posted. There's a purple wig at his place that is styled suspiciously similar to Rumi from K-pop Demon Hunters. He opened Kathy's mail thinking it was his and found it. The costume itself is set to arrive in about a week. She isn't planning on telling him about either. He's claiming they fought because neither the costume nor the wig were cheap, but he also felt the need to tell me she'd been watching the movie repeatedly to study and that she cares so much, and that isn't it sweet how much Kathy loves my kids and maybe my daughter would like it this time. That was all I heard before I went to look for a pillow to scream into. I'm done. This made me a lot angrier than it should have, but it isn't the first time someone in my family decides my plans and the effort I put in don't mean shit. And if I can't even plan my own child's birthday party without someone trying to butt in, I didn't have to feel bad about drawing the line. Kathy is officially banned from the party. My husband and I have alerted the venue that we didn't hire any character performers, and if any Caucasian-looking Korean pop star shows up, they must tell her to go home. We also gave them a picture of her. They basically told us they can't let anyone who's not on the guest list inside anyway, so she won't be allowed. I feel horrible about making them deal with my family drama, but at least that's one less thing to worry about. My dad and I did fight about this, but I put my foot down. He kept arguing that it wouldn't be a big deal if I just let Kathy have this. I told him that's not the point. If he's not the one who's going to have to manage the situation, he doesn't get to tell me how hard it is to do it. In the end, this is what we settled on. My dad can come to the birthday party as long as Kathy doesn't tag along. If she does, they're both out. Both of them can still join us for dinner later. I'm also thinking about lowering my contact with both my dad and Kathy. I love my dad, but no headache is worth this. I want to wait until I'm calmer to work out the details. I want to thank everyone. I got a lot going on in my life and my therapist is on vacation, so it feels good to rant about this. But for my own sanity, I'm going to focus on relaxing for the next couple of weeks. I already feel much lighter knowing this is over. A commenter says to OP, you know she'll show up for dinner in costume, right? OP says it's not the same thing. If she shows up in a costume at a party full of small kids without warning, it's easy for history to repeat itself. If she shows up in costume at a restaurant in which the only children present will be family, and there wouldn't be any real excuse for a character performer to be there, at worst she embarrasses herself. King Super John says, who was downvoted, she gets an A for effort. She seems to be trying to do something special. Maybe you could channel her energy into something nice for her and your kid. She likes to dress up and cosplay. Let her dress your kid up a few times and see how it goes. This woman may be annoying to you, but she is trying. There are worse things than being overexcited. Opie says I'm not channeling her energy into anything. Like I said, I'm done. She doesn't want to do something special. She never liked cosplay or dress up and doesn't actually care about what my daughter would enjoy. She just wants people to give her attention. Impossible Nebula says, what is she insecure about? Why can't she just be his wife and enjoy friendly relationships with the rest of the family? You're all adults and nobody has any expectations of her to be anything she doesn't have to be. She sounds more than insecure. She sounds unstable. Opie says I've given up on trying to figure her out, but the fact that she's younger than my dad and technically his third wife, he didn't legally marry his second wife, very obviously gets to her. She's been extremely pushy about being part of the family since first year of their relationship. Opie goes on to talk about the possibility of Kathy showing up at the party anyway and says she can't be allowed inside the venue without being on the guest list. They know who she is and what she looks like, so it doesn't matter whether she's in costume or not. There is zero chance Kathy is coming to the party, and to be fair, she's in her 40s and does look young. Not young enough to pass for a 20-something though. So the next post, which was titled The Final Update, came a month later and says, I said I wouldn't update again unless something happened, so you guys can probably guess why I'm back. This might get long. I'll go ahead and say nothing happened at the party itself. It happened on Saturday and everything went perfectly fine. My daughter loved it, the kids had fun, and we had no problems with the venue. Kathy did not try to come, nor did my dad try to convince me to re-invite her. I'd expected him to sulk through the party, but he actually did pretty well, and then we went to the birthday dinner. My dad and Kathy were running so late that the food arrived around the time that they did. Kathy was dressed as Rumi, wig and jacket. My dad was refusing to make eye contact with anyone, very obviously embarrassed. The kids saw them before we did. I knew there's a chance she'd come to the restaurant in costume, but I was more concerned she'd do it at the party. My husband and I had agreed that we wouldn't make a scene in front of the kids, but would step in if things got out of hand. It was very awkward. The kids, 5 in total, including my 3, mostly ignored her. They recognized Kathy and called her by her name, which upset her. They were also not amused by the way she kept trying to get their attention because she was trying to get them to interact with her while they were either talking to each other or trying to eat. I told Kathy to leave them alone when she started trying to pull my daughter's hand away from her food so they could get up and dance together. She sat there silent for a few minutes before leaving to go to the bathroom. Then she texted my dad that she wasn't feeling well and they left. In the end, they stayed for less than 20 minutes. People were staring, but that's not something I tend to care about, besides the few times I cringed. Kathy asked the waitress if they had any ramen at Johnny Rockets. Nothing too chaotic happened. Still, I regret not telling her to leave. My husband handled bedtime that night and our daughter asked him whether it was okay if she didn't like Kathy. She also asked my husband not to tell me that at first because she didn't want to upset me. The 3 of us ended up talking on Sunday. Our daughter basically said she was upset that Kathy was bothering her and being pushy during the dinner, and she was worried that the kids at the table next to us were looking at her funny because of what was going on. I'm exhausted, and I feel like shit like this happens way too often. It's perfectly fine for them to do what they want as long as I'm the one dealing with the consequences. More than anything, I refuse to let my children be treated this way too. I genuinely don't understand why Kathy insists on behaving like this, but I shouldn't have to worry about whether a grown woman will listen to me when I tell her not to do something at my child's party. A few hours after the talk with my daughter, the kids went out with my mum. I took the opportunity to call my dad and Kathy and told them she is no longer welcome at any of my children's events. We had an interesting argument during which Kathy said I had humiliated her when I told her to leave my daughter alone, and she couldn't understand why I was doing this when she was willing to go this far to make my kids happy. My dad and I talked again later that night, without her. He was still defending Kathy but admitted he was embarrassed when she insisted on wearing the costume. Apparently that was the reason they were late to the dinner. I told him my decision was final, and if he ever tried bringing Kathy to an event she isn't invited to, they would both be told to leave. We're not officially cutting ties, but my husband and I will make an effort to spend less time with Kathy moving forward. That will probably include lowering our contact with my dad as well, but the more I think about it, the more I realize that might actually help our relationship. In the end, Kathy's shenanigans aside, my daughter really enjoyed her birthday. That's all that really matters. I once again want to thank everyone. This is my last post. One of the top commenters said to OP, I'm glad the party went well and Kathy didn't create too much of a scene. Have you told your dad about what your kids said about it? I think if he knows, he'll see that Kathy is doing this only for her sake, not the kids, since they didn't like it either. Opie says I decided not to. I know that if I did, Kathy would fixate on my daughter whenever we saw each other. I didn't want to risk her making my daughter feel suffocated in the future. I don't want my daughter to dislike Kathy, and for all I know, she might completely forget about this in a few months, but her comfort comes first. My dad and everyone else who was at the dinner did agree that it was very obvious the kids didn't like it. Opie also says, another big reason why I'm not telling my dad and Kathy. I don't really see any way of telling them that doesn't put an even bigger target on my daughter's back. She told me and my husband that in private. They don't need to know about it. A commenter says to OP, the only person she's doing all that for is herself, and the only person that it doesn't make uncomfortable is herself. Is she self-absorbed in other ways too? OP says kind of. She can be nice and generous sometimes, but she's disrespectful of boundaries and has the tendency of either trying to work around them or just outright break them to get what she wants. And there have been times in the past in which her generosity was dubious. She usually does what she thinks others should like instead of what they want. Someone says, how old is Kathy? Opie says she'll be 49 in a few months. To her credit, I thought she was 43 until I remembered she was supposed to be 14 years older than me. Someone says, does Kathy favor Opie's daughter over her other kids? Opie says, I have 3 children, 1 boy and 2 girls. The daughter I'm talking about is my middle child. My son is almost 9 and my other daughter is an infant. I never really thought she favored any of my kids, but I also can't see her pulling this stunt at one of my son's parties, not even when he was younger. I don't think she's obsessed with my daughter or my kids specifically. She behaves in similar fashion with most of my paternal family. It's just worse around all the children. My cousin thinks it's because of the way they react to these things. Opie talks more about her father and her relationship and says, my dad said they were late to dinner because they had a fight over it. She put on the costume and refused to take it off. They argued until he gave up and they left for the dinner. None of that surprises me. Opie also says, I really hope this approach works. It feels weird to say this about someone who's still in my life, but I really miss my dad. Our relationship was never perfect, but I miss it when he was just my father and not Kathy's defender. And absolutely, stepping back from these relationships at the moment is the right thing to do. Kathy doesn't seem like she wants to make the kids happy. She wants the actual moment, the kids going, oh wow, the magic and the recognition of it all. And every time she doesn't get it, she just seems to double down. And the daughter quietly asking her dad if it was okay that she didn't like Kathy, asking him not to tell mom about it. This 6-year-old is always trying to manage adults' emotions around this whole situation, which is just heartbreaking, isn't it? But absolutely protect your kids in a situation like this, because it's not fair on them, is it? But what gets me is the dad knew as well. He saw the whole planning process. He saw the wig. He was embarrassed. He even fought with her about the costume before dinner and then just went along with it. The guy is just enabling this chaos at his own grandkid's birthday party. And if I'm being completely honest, I can only see this going full no contact at some point down the road. If dad doesn't say anything to her and just keeps enabling it, it's going to have him cut off at the same time as well. Because her behavior does feel pretty unhinged. But what do you guys make of this situation? How do you think it's going to go in the future? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from the relationship advice subreddit from Same Trainer, who says, boyfriends 21 male, best friend 20 female, hates me 25 female, and wants us to break up. I seriously can't do this anymore. This is half like a vent and half a cry for help. I feel like I'm going fucking insane, but I don't know what to do. I've been with my boyfriend for almost 1 year. We live together. Things are going really well. This is kind of his first real serious relationship, so we had some issues at first, but we communicate a lot and he's a great guy. Definitely the best relationship I've been in so far. Outside of one thing, and that's his best friend. I don't want to be controlling. He can have female friends, it's absolutely no problem. He had issues with a jealous and manipulative girlfriend. Didn't last long, hence why I said first serious relationship. So I don't want to be that girlfriend, if that makes sense. I met his friend after a month, if I remember correctly. When we first met, she was very sweet, kind, and incredibly bubbly. As soon as my boyfriend left the room, she looked at me like I shit in her cereal. Oh, I've never heard that one before. She started barraging me with questions, who I was, what I got with my boyfriend, and a bunch of other stuff. It was like an interrogation, and she kept cutting me off. When my boyfriend got back, she went back to the girl I met. I was so shocked, I didn't believe what had just happened. Every single time we've been alone together since, she's been a total bitch to me. She's never obvious about it in front of my boyfriend. It's never enough to call her out. When she's with my boyfriend, she hovers around him, touches him, or tries to be as close as possible. My boyfriend, thank God, tells me everything. Until a few months ago, they regularly gave each other massages. He stopped it immediately when he saw my reaction. Friend keeps on bringing it up amongst other stuff like, remember when we used to do XXX? She has no boundaries. She will cuddle up to him and I can't get mad because I'll look like a bitch myself. Today she came over for dinner and she crossed yet again another line and I'm done with it. Boyfriend was prepping dinner and she came up to him and hugged him from behind and kissed his neck and cheek. She was wearing a super low-cut top and her tit accidentally fell out of her shirt. Later, she showed her new swimming wear to us. What? And I could have killed her right there. I've told my boyfriend about my concerns and he understands and listens, but he has known this girl literally since birth. I don't want to ask him to cut her off completely. He always asks if it's okay to hang out or do something with her, but I almost need to throw up when I think what she's like when they're one-on-one. I'm so lost. I'm afraid. It's clear that she's into him. Why in God's name did she never tell him this? And she's told me it's only a matter of time until he dumps me. It doesn't help that she's way prettier, younger, and more adventurous than I am. It would be an upgrade for him, but he has never seen her act out to me because she's very careful about it. I've thought about approaching her directly, but I don't see it going well. Sorry for my English. Any suggestions are welcome. Now in this one, I was thinking maybe he's a little bit naive because he told you about the massages, he stopped them and he checks in and he tells her everything apparently. But then it got to that neck kiss and I was like, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. And immediately went into Columbo mode and I was like, nah, there's something going on here. I got that feeling and Columbo doesn't ignore those feelings. Although I might totally be fucking wrong, but... A commenter says to OP, why haven't you said anything to this poor guy? The two most important women in his life are lying to him by deed or omission. You guys are going to give him a complex when he finally sees what's going on right under his nose. Film it, and then have a sit down with him and explain what's been happening. If he resists, present your proof, and explain how you are trying not to put him in a sucky position but you can't continue like things are now. OP says, I've told him, though she's never done it directly in front of him, but I'm also afraid that if it blows up, she might confess her love for him, and he will have to choose. Honestly, don't think he knows. Maggot says, wear a shirt with a pocket on it like a button-up when he's about to leave the room. Start your phone recording and put it in your pocket, even if it's just audio. You've got two options. He can either establish boundaries with her or you can leave him. As is, that is grossly inappropriate behavior, and him not telling her to shut that shit down is disrespectful to you and your relationship. I'd leave my partner in a heartbeat and never speak to them again if they allowed that kind of blatant nonsense to go on. He can have female friends. He can have friends he's known his whole life. He can't have a side girlfriend, and that's exactly how she is behaving. Opie says, yeah, it does hurt me. I feel like I've been slowly losing him to her. I've been cheated on in the past relationships, and I'm so scared that he might leave me for her. I know I'm being insecure, but I simply can't help it right now. I'm too overwhelmed. I might try to record it as a last resort, though she is often really sneaky about it. Maybe if I challenge her a little bit. Someone says, is the friend in a relationship? Opie says, well, she was in a 2-year relationship until about a month ago, but she ended it. Since the frequency of her flirty behavior has only increased, then I'm not okay with it anymore. But she had no problems doing it in her relationship too. It's painfully obvious to me that she loves him. So it was 2 weeks later that OP comes back into the post and says, so it's been 2 weeks since I posted. I talked to my boyfriend the day after and basically said what everyone else already commented and what I was thinking. No, I didn't secretly record her because that didn't sit right with me. I told him her behavior was making me super uncomfortable and that he needed to set boundaries with her ASAP or I wasn't going to put up with it anymore. I was fucking pissed while I was telling him this and he got the message. He texted her in front of me and even let me read it. I was satisfied and very relieved. Felt like I could finally breathe. Best friend came over a few times and was very nice to me. She wasn't being inappropriate even once. Very respectful of the boundaries we had set. When we were alone, she was the same girl as when we were all together. Total 180. Great. I was so glad and happy. Thought she got the hint. Skip to yesterday. Boyfriend is in the shower and left his phone in his pants on the floor. Phone keeps vibrating and I'm getting annoyed. I grab his phone. All the messages are from his best friend. There are pics of them fucking, a video I didn't watch, and a lot of lovey-dovey messages. I scrolled back and it went back to at least 2 months ago until I had enough and had an emotional breakdown. serious plans together. Honestly, I never even came up in their conversations. He came back from the gym last night. We're gonna have sex after he got out of the shower, and he had been fucking here minutes before he came home. I'm staying with a friend for a while. Had to take work off today because I'm a total wreck. Honestly, I'm still in shock. I seriously can't comprehend what's going on. Haven't responded to any of boyfriend's messages, but he knows I know. He hasn't said anything after he realized it, I think. Well, this confirmed for me I'm not as desirable as I thought. Funny how I genuinely believed he chose me. I can't even start to explain how shit I feel. Started drinking, but luckily I have my friend who is here taking care of me. Bless her. Cheers. It's really sad that OP was putting herself down after this, not as desirable, and she was doing it earlier on in the post comparing herself to this other person as well. And I think it says everything about what this relationship did to OP's self-worth. But the fact of the matter is, he didn't deserve you. So get out, stay away from him, heal up, because you already did the hardest part of getting out of that shit. And just thinking from the best friend's perspective here, I never understand in situations like this why they would want that. She's been fighting for this guy in the background who's happy to cheat. Yes, cheat with her, but still happy to cheat. Doesn't it tick in your mind that if he's willing to do it once, he's probably going to do it again, and you're fighting for that? Wild. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. Truly, it's absolutely amazing. And hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.